Let's talk about, let me see if I can get all in frame, the High Republic. Now, if you've been following my channel throughout the past year, I've reviewed every single High Republic, the book that is released, with about one exception. The one exception is there's some little kids' books that come with stickers that I didn't review, but every other book I reviewed. And these books are part of a new initiative from Lucasfilm to further the Star Wars universe by setting it before the prequels and anything else we know in Star Wars, and just exploring a time where the Jedi are all at peace, and kind of there isn't really any Sith in the galaxy and what goes on with that. That is what the point of the story is. So, a lot of people have hated on these books, said they're failures, they all are awful, they're all shit. And these are all people who have never read these books. Because as someone who read them for the past year, these books are absolutely phenomenal, incredibly well written. The art in these comics are great, the actual art on these books are great, the writing on these books is great, everything about these books is great. And also, who says they're failing? Because they're on New York Times bestsellers list, which, I don't really take much in accountability into that, but they're in other best-selling lists, and they're on best-selling in their genres and all kinds of things. They're really popular books. And if they're failing, why are we getting more in January? Just saying. So what I wanted to do is talk about each book I reviewed this year in a kind of retrospective of year one of the High Republic, because we are going into year two of the High Republic starting in January. Now, the first book came out in January of last year, or not last year, this year, Light of the Jedi, which this book was our first introduction. And this book also came out with this other book here, A Test of Courage. Now, these books also are very different age ranges, as I mentioned before in my reviews. This one here is like the normal age range Star Wars book, like about, I'd say, 15 and up, somewhere in there. That age range. This one here is targeted more towards like little kid readers, but it adds things to the universe, and so they're good. So that's just 1 month of the High Republic books being out. You got 2 books. Next month they released Into the Dark, which is another kind of more adult themed Star Wars book, and it goes in some pretty dark places. Really great book. And then they released The Rising Storm, which is the sequel to Light of the Jedi, which was fantastic. Then they released the sequel to Test of Courage, Race to Crash Point Tower. Then they released Out of the Shadows, which is the sequel to Into the Dark. And then they released the first comic, and There Is No Fear, which is fantastic. The first trade paperback of the comics. The comics had released before that, but then we have the High Republic Adventures Volume 1. And then we had the manga, Star Wars The High Republic, The Edge of Balance. And then you have the Heart of Drengir. So, this is a lot of books. Let me count how many books we got here in total. So right here with the comics and manga together, we have about 4. Okay? And then 2, so 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 books in total. 10 books. There's a total of 10 books here. In 1 year, Lucasfilm launched this initiative to write these stories with 10 books. 10 books! And it looks like next year we're getting even more. We have pre-orders all the way up until May with these High Republic books. Right now. That's how big this initiative is. So let me tell you something. If you have not already jumped on these books, do it now because it's going to get harder to catch up the longer you wait to do this. There are so many High Republic books. These are fantastic novels. They're incredibly well written. The dialogue, the characters, the atmosphere of these books. Yeah, I know what I just described to you, A Time of Peace, may not sound that interesting, but let me tell you something. The Time of Peace is really interesting. They do things with it to build tension in the story. I know it's like hard to imagine what that'd be like. Like, how is there any drama if it's only peace? Well, let's just say someone s- screws something up. That's how this all goes down. And yeah, it starts with Light of the Jedi. You have some kind of like incident in hyperspace, and that's a big deal, and there's something going on with that, and it's about the Jedi's rule, and you see flaws in their rule, other things like that. It kind of leads into the prequels. There's all these interesting characters that are introduced in these books. Absolutely incredibly well written. There's incredibly well written villains. It's just a really, really, really exciting Star Wars book series, and they're all over the place. They're different types of stories. They're not all the same stories. They don't all follow the same characters. You don't get the same characters from Into the Dark and Out of the Shadows that you would get in Light of the Jedi and the Rising Storm, or these books here, or the comics. They're all over the place. I think Lucasfilm has done an incredible job publishing these books, getting them all over the place, and talking about uh, different subjects and doing interesting things with it that I wouldn't expect. These books, this is my first time really getting invested in Star Wars books. Not that I haven't read Star Wars books before. I had, just not a lot of them. This is my first time that as they released, I was keeping up with Star Wars books. And these are incredible novels. I cannot wait for the next books. Next month, or actually in the next couple weeks, once I get paid again, I'm going to go pre-order the next two books so I can have reviews out for you guys as soon as they release. And then I'm going to keep going and going to and I can keep doing it because these books are great, and I'm going to do this until the end of the High Republic, which is nowhere in sight, despite what a bunch of fucking idiots tell you.